Per the request of the people, I am doing menswear today. So this is how I would style NFL player Ja'Marr Chase. Now, I don't like Jamar's style at all. I think he is a cutie, but I do not like his style. I feel like menswear overall is just in a weird place. But a few things. One, I feel like athletes across the board, but specifically male athletes, are some of the worst dressed people in that entire entertainment-esque type of industry. Mostly because they have access to a lot of money, but aren't around a lot of honest opinions. And I think athletes are the absolute worst case of it's designer, it's designer, it's designer. So it must mean that it's cute and fashionable. And I just think, oh my God, some of the looks that have come out of the NFL and the NBA have been absolutely horrendous because of that type of mentality. Now, I think that Ja'Marr has a lot of potential. I love that he clearly has the budget to invest in some nice pieces. I think he just needs guidance and structure and a proper mood board and idea of fashion that's outside of it's designer, it's a label. It's also it's two things in menswear right now. I don't know if this newer generation realized that LA and West Coast has never been the fashion capital. And I feel like all the athletes, once they get like a bit of a coin and they step they step a pinky toe into LA for whatever reason, they all come back with this weird fashion that's just not it. And I think it speaks to the whole designer thing. It's like this ain't it. Another thing is I miss the masculinity that used to be in menswear. I think that certain styles should remain in the queer community simply because straight men don't have the swag to pull them off. And I'm seeing everybody walk around with bell bottoms and certain type of silhouettes. And it's just like some things need to be left to the gays, baby, because y'all do not have the range. And I think a lot of them are being styled like, hey, we can do it all. And if you are not going to 100% commit to it in the ways that gay men commit to it, because gay men dress down, okay? If you aren't going to give that same level of commitment to it, then I think you should just leave that to them. And I think that the straight men used to do a really great job in fashion of just displaying true masculinity. And I want to see that come back. Like, I think fashion is supposed to be a range. I don't think it was ever meant for everyone to be doing the same thing. And again, I think athletes are the biggest culprits of this. It's like they look like they just go in their closets with their eyes closed and just grab the first thing off the shelf. So because he is a man, you guys are going to see a little bit of a new formulation today because a lot of the things that you can do for women, you can't do for men, like necessarily like a straight man usually traditionally is not getting his makeup done unless it's like for an interview and that's traditionally like a touch up. But so we're going to get into some things about what I feel like is required for a man to truly be fashion forward and what is needed. I think that Mase should be on Ja'Marr's mood board. For one, swag, charm, and sex appeal. With this new generation of men, it is literally non-existent. And I don't think they realize that outside of your craft that you get paid to do and be amazing at, the next thing is how much women love you. and it doesn't play as much of a factor when it comes to women's fashion, but as far as men, it absolutely positively plays a factor. Just for example, like that's a huge part of Denzel's longevity in his career is because women have always found him desirable. And I think in now with men, it has gotten to a place where I think a lot of them believe that the opinion of women doesn't matter when it comes to fashion and things like that, and it absolutely does. You don't see any sex appeal coming from these guys, especially the athletes. Like, what's going on? Like, that used to be like a major thing. It's like, okay, yeah, of course, the guys always like, the male athletes for sports reasons and stuff like that. But back in the day when I was growing up, like, it was guys, the girls like too, like certain players. Like, and I don't think that this newer generation, like, for instance, like Allen Iverson. Girls used to love Allen Iverson, but it was because he had a bit of a swag about him. And I think Mase is just, I love Mase. 90s Mase, listen, chef's kiss. Epitome of a pretty boy that's from the hood. Those dimples, the voice, just how he held space. Just like everything about him was just so swaggy, so charming, so sexy. And I think that Jamar Chase, if you've seen like some of his highlights after he touches down and stuff like that, he has the capability to get here. I just think it just needs some fine tuning. And I think Mase is just the perfect person for that, for Jamar. Now, for fashion, I think that Jay-Z should be on Jamar's mood board for multiple reasons. But first, I want to say that I do not think that Black men out of New York City get enough credit for what they have contributed to fashion. I think that when the fashion conversation happens, Black men in New York get overlooked. And they have contributed so much to men's fashion and just the overall structure and segue that it had to the hood. And I think what's missing with today's menswear and fashion is their appreciation for Black culture. And I think that Black men out of New York did a great job at always centering Blackness in their fashion. And I think that's probably what my biggest issue is with the style of today with the men, and it being so LA geared, because it's not like it's Black LA that's being centered in the fashion. It's the white part of LA that's being centered in a lot of their fashion, and a lot of men's fashion in the Black community has become extremely whitewashed. And it was not like that in the 90s and early 2000s. So I would love for Blackness to be centered in menswear again, because it's absolutely not happening. And I think that Jay-Z has always done an amazing job. And this generation, like, they have their little jokes about him and whatever being Beyonce's husband and stuff like that. But please understand, my generation version of Jay-Z was the flyest, swaggiest, I'm not going to use profanity, man that was around at that time. Rockaware, S-Dots, I don't think it really was another Black man that was in rap that was more influential to fashion than Jay-Z. And yeah, we had other brands and stuff like that, but the way Rockaware took the hood by storm, baby, we ain't seen nothing else like it. And I also think that Jay-Z did an amazing job of evolving in his style, which is another reason why I think he's perfect for Jamar Chase, because athletes have a lot of streetwear looks, but they also have to clean it up with suits when they have, when they do those before the walks, before their games or interviews or the award ceremonies that they have to go to, I think it's very important to have someone on his mood board that has that level of versatility. Another thing that I miss, before I forget, is jerseys. Bring jerseys back into fashion. Oh my God, you don't see it anymore. It's like, in y'all athletes, like, what the hell? Jay-Z jersey game was elite, okay? And I would love to see some fitted hats too, because I'm tired of the beanies. I just feel like, but again, it goes back to my point about fashion now being so completely whitewashed, because jerseys were like a major staple in fashion with menswear, but just like across the board, like with men and women, like the guys had the jerseys, girls had jersey dresses. It's like, I don't really understand, like, Black culture, and especially Black men out of New York have always been tastemakers. And I don't like how far we have strayed from that. And so I would love to see Jay-Z just on the mood board for Jamar Chase and his fashion. Now, to bring this thing on home, Jamar Chase is from Louisiana, and I think that Master P and the No Limit Soldiers has to be on his mood board, and specifically for jewelry and overall accessorizing. I don't think that anyone quite accessorized like Black men from the South in hip hop. The grills, the necklaces, the bracelets, the watches, the sunglasses. It's like they really revolutionized the jewelry game and what it meant to accessorize as men. And I think you see it in today's culture a lot. A lot of these guys with like the chains, like the big chains and the diamonds and all that. That, the grills in their mouth, the VVs and all that, like, that is down south. And I think we really first seen it between, it was like a tie between like Master P and Cash Money. But the reason why I think that Master P and No Limit should be on Jamar's mood board specifically is because if you look at the overall style, a lot of Jamar's style, you can see a lot of the Master P, No Limit Soldier swag in Jamar's style. And if I am going to put such an emphasis on Black culture, I think it's very important to include Southern men in the dialogue around Jamar Chase, because that's what he is. He's from Louisiana. And if you hear him speak, it's still very much, you can hear that entire twang in his voice. He wears the grill, he wears the jewelry, and I think it's so fitting. I also love to use this reference because Jamar recently cut his hair, and I think the low cut looks so good on him compared to the braids. Now, I do think it's some men who should keep their hair and are better suited with braids and locks. I think Lil Wayne, Future, Lil Baby, Dirk, Gunna are all examples of offset men who look better with locks. But I think Jamar Chase is one of the cases, and I know he had braids, but I'm just saying men who had hair, you know. I think Jamar Chase is one of the cases of someone who I prefer to see with a low cut, because I feel like the braids kind of still made him look like a boy, where the low cut made him look like a man. And I feel like outside of Mystical, like the No Limit Soldiers like Master P, they were like guys who rock like low cuts, like versus Cash Money, where it was like a lot of locks over there. It was like a different type of aesthetic. But I just think that, like, one of the things you always see like Jamar Chase do was like flash off his chain or his grill. And I feel like that is very Master P, No Limit Soldier-esque coded. And I just think they also symbolize masculinity too, in a way that you don't quite see anymore. Because I feel like down south has become a culprit of that heavy white LA influence and style too. And I think it's very, if I would like to see Jamar Chase style have more of a center of blackness, then I think it would be remiss for me not to include Master P in, listen, all of this. And if we're talking about swagger, Silk the Shocker might not have been much of a rapper, but the girls was going crazy over Silk the Shocker. And I think if we go back to that swag conversation, I think there is someone else where I think he did a really great job at being a heartthrob at the time. Because, when Maya Moving On video came out and Silk the Shocker was in it, we went crazy. And I just think that Master P and No Limit aren't discussed enough in the fashion conversation and the influence that they held. And I think it comes up sometime. It came up for like a peak when Solange album came out and she interviewed him for that. He started to get his flowers, but I don't think he get his flowers nearly enough. Like Hot Boys and Cash Money, you always hear them in the conversation. But I feel like Master P and them just kind of gets, I don't know, like they just don't get the flowers they deserve. So I honestly really want to do that. So this is my overall fashion analysis of Jamar Chase and the direction I think he should go in with his style and what should be on his mood board. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know what you would do differently.